You're going to walk down the street in Columbus 20 years from now and hear several different languages, and it will not be unusual. I think that's an exciting, dynamic thing. For some people, change is hard. It can be difficult, but we're never going to go back to being the Columbus we were in the 1950s. And the exciting part about the next 20 years is how we're going to really thrust ourselves into top-tier big cities in America, but doing it our way. You know, remaining smart and open, committed to our values, and making sure that we keep focusing on shared prosperity. You know, looking at making sure that every family in every neighborhood, regardless of where it is in the city, gets to share in our success.
When you look at New York, you look at Chicago, you look at Boston, you look at Raleigh-Durham, you look at Charlotte, you say metropolitan. You look at Columbus, just Columbus. How do we get Columbus to be Columbus, a major metropolitan city?
I would say that we are going to see the population growth that took place in the last 70 years take place in the next 20. I think as we continue to dramatically grow in a very short period of time for many people who were born and raised here, Columbus, as much as we've seen, you know, over the last 50 years, you know, think about that happening in the next 15 to 20.
You ever talk to anybody from New York? New Yorkers have, you know, you could tell a New Yorker from their accent, but if you talk to certain New Yorkers, they'll tell you like, oh, I'm from the Bronx, or I'm from Manhattan, or I'm from this part, Long Island, things like that. And it goes deeper into, you know, the Latino population, the African American population, the Caucasians, the Italians, like all of those different cultures have their own sections of town, and they integrate with one another to make this big picture called New York. And I think Columbus has that possibility. We're so close to so many things, and we can reach so many people. We have so much diversity, and so now it's just building on how do we identify that diversity in our city.
We pitched for the Hyperloop. The Hyperloop is very cool. It's Elon Musk's innovation, which is if you would go to a bank, you know, if you think of when you would go to a bank and you put your money in that, you know, cylinder and it shoots up the vacuum, it's essentially that technology with people and things. So you would shoot about 700 miles per hour to a destination. It's, you know, a whole different concept from rail. And it's really pretty interesting. They're actually piloting it in the desert, and they've done a few successful runs at it. And Columbus is a semi-finalist to have that technology come here first. Imagine if you could get goods from Columbus to Chicago in 15 minutes. I mean, that dramatically changes supply chains and movement of people and where people want to go. And if we could be in the center spoke of that network, that could be really powerful for the economic growth of the region.
The biggest thing we have to be focused on is transportation. We really need to home in on that. And we need to think about what are the needs of the future today and begin to build our transit infrastructure to accommodate mass transit. It will be an integral part of who we are as a city in every way, It won't be just about, I don't own a car, I can't afford to own a car, so I'm gonna take the bus. And it'll be part of our economic vibrancy, part of our housing, part of our job development. It'll be part of the quality of life. Transit will drive the city. I use the word drive. Isn't that interesting? Transit will drive and transform our city probably more than anything else going into the future.
My hope, my anticipation is that Columbus will be to mobility as technology is to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco. that this becomes the center for mobility. And what we mean by that is not just simply that we'll have driverless cars zipping around Columbus, but that there'll be all sorts of companies and a sort of an ecosystem of companies built around mobility, such that Columbus becomes the place for the latest advances in mobility. And that would be something that would draw population, that would draw workers, that would draw technologists to a city like Columbus.
You know, I think everyone knows, you know, in 2011 I said we're going to really focus on Franklinton, that's going to happen. At that time, people sort of raised their eyebrows. You know, now, what's it, 6 years later, they're saying, oh wow, Franklinton's coming back. It is, it's going to come back. And so 50 years from now, Franklinton will be fully developed.
We've already seen the challenges that places like Franklinton and Linden have faced. And I think that one of the questions that I'm asking about the future is where are the next Lindens and Franklintons going to be? In other words, thriving neighborhoods that start to fall on harder times. We want to try to prevent that from happening. But I think as a futurist, as someone who's looking ahead, I'm particularly interested in understanding what those distressed areas might look like. And so, for instance, I was driving up Sawmill Parkway just yesterday and was imagining, could this be an area that in 20 years' time starts to look like Linden or starts to look like Franklinton? Not that I want that to happen. I'm not making a prediction. I'm not saying that that's something that I want to see happen. But I think that that dealing with the challenges of increasing population demands that we ask and that we consider such questions, if for no other reason to prevent it from happening.
I am so excited about the future of the city. And what it's going to be in 50 years. I wish I could be around to see it. And I know it's going to be really the premier city in not just the nation, it'll be a global city. I really think that.